people are still joining up, but I'm going to get started. We've got this recorded, and so welcome everyone today. I'm excited to host the joint webinar with TopLeft and ScopeStack. And so projects are a huge issue. I've seen that in my MSP with project management and scoping and delivery. And projects are often an Achilles heel for MSPs. Like, we focus a lot on the monthly agreements and flat fee agreements, all in managed services, being profitable on that. But we neglect our project management, the sales and delivery on that. So as a result, I've talked to a lot of MSPs that just avoid projects altogether, or they bundle some of it into their agreement, or only do small projects. And I've been there too. I've got scars to prove it from running my two MSPs, Kerkhoff Technologies and Crafty Penguins, and just been drinking the MSP Kool-Aid, but almost went out of business from butchering projects. One project I scoped it around 200 hours. I did this Excel sheet with so many hours of rebuilding firewall and server rebuilds and such. And it took us like 800 hours to deliver. So I ended up losing that client and like 3 or 4 other clients that would sign up in that year as well. So I almost went out of business doing that. And on top of that, tools like ConnectWise and Autotask don't really set our project managers to win in seeing their project portfolio, delivering on those commitments. It's hard to see the bottlenecks without a lot of clicking around. So that's why we got into building TopLeft with a Kanban interface. And just from experience, looking at my team, the engineers didn't know what to be doing next. So they just went from the list, which was not necessarily the most important thing, or they would spend day after day on their service tickets and not really move the critical projects forward. And I know that done right, projects can be a very rewarding experience for all parties. The client, they get what's been promised to them, the sales team, because they see what they've promised is getting delivered as well, and the engineers, they can take pride in their work, and the project managers, that they see things are moving slowly, and their bank account. There's no reason not to make good money on the projects like we do on the managed services. So from a big picture perspective, I believe it comes down to 2 things. There's the first thing is what happens before a client commits to that project. And once they commit, they sign that dotted line, or they click the button on your online quote. How do we deliver on that commitment very quickly and effectively on that? So that's the point of today's webinar. I've got a special guest. I have Jon from ScopeStack. Welcome, Jon.
Hey, everyone. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Wim.
So he'll start off with sort of a 20-minute demo of his solution around pre-sales. I believe it's a natural integration with TopLeft. So he'll show that, and then we'll transition to Matt Fox, their VP for TopLeft, who will show you sort of what happens post-approval, what happens when that project is in your PSA, how do you visualize it and get it done quickly without burning out your engineers or causing your project manager to go crazy. So with all that said, I will hand it off to Jon now, who will share his screen.
Yeah, appreciate it, Wim. And while I'm getting this up, again, nice to meet everyone. My name is Jon. I'm one of the founders over here at ScopeStack. And very similar to Wim and team, I actually worked for a services organization, and my job was a pre-sales solution architect. And when it came down to it, right, 2 main jobs that I had were building out the bill of materials and then writing a statement of work. And so everywhere I've ever worked, large organizations, small organizations, it was always spreadsheets and Word templates as the main mechanism to scope and price that effort. And so, we finally got all tired of it about 5 years ago, quit our jobs, and started building ScopeStack. So really this platform is built, specifically for our industry. And again, kind of to Wim's point, is that where does it sit, right? And so we have CRMs, whether it's ConnectWise or Autotask. We have post-sales tools, so your PSA, like ConnectWise or Autotask as well. ScopeStack sits in between the CRM and the PSA. So we can suck in the opportunity information from our CRM, scope against it, push back and update services revenue if we want to. And then at the end of the day, Wim mentioned this, once the project gets approved internally to ScopeStack, we can actually push that work breakdown automatically to ConnectWise or Autotask. And so today, Matt and I will show you a little bit on the ConnectWise side. So what I thought I would do is I would just start scoping out a project and kind of walk you from, hey, we have an opportunity we know is in our CRM. Okay, well, now what does that pre-sales or engineering team do next? So we'll come in here and I'll click create new project, and I'll associate this to top left opportunity 27 here, right? And so what you'll see is it's automatically filled in project name, client, MSA date, as well as a service location. And then I don't need to fill any of this other stuff out right now. I'll just click save. And so this is going to hop you into our scope editor. So within the scope editor, really the meat to the entire platform is around professional services, managed third-party services, right? And so for this conversation, I'll start with the PS side. When I click into services, I have really 3 different options in terms of like calculating service and level of effort in my project. I can use a standard service. And so what that looks like here is, if I just go click search, you can see all the services that we've built within our platform. And so if I want to look for, Microsoft 365 email migration, and again, as a part of ScopeStack, we have about 52 pre-built services that actually came from another very mature MSP that was a client of ours and said, hey, John, the hard part was like defining all this content in your platform. But we've done all that work, we've done it for you. And so we'd love to offer that to all your clients. And so that's actually available out there today. So I'll show you more details in this in a second, but so I can come in here and pull from a choice of pre-built services, or I also have an option to come in here and choose from what we call a blueprint. So a blueprint is a collection of those services kind of packaged in a solution. And so I'll use Umbrella as an opportunity, and I'll just click this and add all of it. And so what you'll see, what we're going to add are services across multiple phases. And when I add that to my project, you'll also see a breakdown and even more detail around each and every one of these services in here. So you'll see, top level, as an example, this network design session, right? And there's some sub services within that with level of effort and resource. And so right here, we're calculating, how long is it going to take, but also the price associated to a resource rate that we have defined in ScopeStack. Now, this is probably pretty familiar to a lot of you, like just this output of what are the steps, how many hours, what are the resources. But really what we found when we were trying to find something for ourselves was something that combined both like the aspects of proposal automation with the aspects of product CPQ. So how do I just configure, price, quote services, and then that makes some sort of meaningful impact on my services language. And so what you'll see is I have all these services built in here, but I also have a statement of work language or managed services agreement language, depending on your use case, right? That's been pre-built for me. And so again, as a part of our service catalog, we'll allow you to pull in all the steps, services and sub-services within that, but then you have the opportunity to define what that language would be. And so the idea here, right, is like, and again, I've defined language for out of scope, responsibilities, assumptions, deliverables. The idea being, if I hop back in here into my service side and I say, hey, for this 365 email migration, we're not going to do single sign-on. So I'm both removing that from the calculation of level of effort and services pricing, as well as saying when I generate the statement of work that we don't want to have any single sign-on language included. All right, or maybe there's a special step because we know Wim and he likes detail. We want to add a custom step to this particular project or this particular service in the context of this project, right? So say it's 4 hours and we might even get an engineer to do that work. And just click save. Now, again, once I've added all my services, I know I have that language in here. We also have this element of project governance. And so these are the things that you need to add to every single one of your projects that are quite honestly often forgotten because we're going so fast, right? So project management, documentation time, add in some contingency, and we want that to be able to scale with the level of effort for our scope. So we give you the ability in settings to define, hey, what is, we want to do 20% of PM on top of level of effort or 10% documentation. And on a per project basis, you can come in and modify that, of course, to meet your needs. And then we have this work breakdown. So it's going to show you all the steps broken down either by line of business or by phase. And this is actually what we are going to go ahead and create over in the ConnectWise side. Right. And so again, I'll kind of finish this out real quick and then I'll push it over, but I can review my PS pricing. So what are all the resources? How many hours are associated for each of them? Rate, revenue, cost. And again, I can fine tune that. I can update that pricing if I want to. But really at the end of the day, in order for me to And I actually need to share my entire screen real quick. And so what I'll do is I'll just generate a statement of work here. So generate this PS template. And so part of what we do with most of our clients as a part of the onboarding process is we'll actually build your look and feel of a document in your account. And so regardless of who's scoping it, right, you're going to get a consistent look and feel as an output to each project, right? And again, you have the ability to customize that language, customize payment terms, and really fine tune it. But at the end of the day, you're not having the owner, if you're the owner of the MSP or these highly paid resources, spending their time copying and pasting and really just doing this word rodeo, as I call it. And so, again, you'll see we skipped a couple of fields just for speed's sake here, but wanted to show you just, the dynamic piece of what the statement of work looks like. So this is all dynamic based on what we chose in the UI. And again, we have a lot of flexibility in what that final output looks like. Right, so now like the big question is, and Wim mentioned this, is okay, we sent this to the client, they've signed off, now what? Right, and so we want to make sure there's alignment between the pre-sale side, sales pre-sales side, and then also the delivery organization that's at the end of the day going to be delivering this project, right? And so I'm actually going to go through the approval process on this side, which will allow us to push. And so the approval process, just while I'm here, gives you the ability to define technical approval steps, business approval steps, and really the concept is we want to make sure the right people are getting visibility into this project at the right time, internal people. And so once this is an approved project, it's now locked down, but what I can do is I have different options now. And so what I'll do is I'll just create this PSA project. I'll just say start date here. I'm gonna send it to this board, and I'll just leave default for now. I'll just click submit. So with that, via the API integration that we've set up with ConnectWise and settings, we will see that project show up over here. So now I'm in ConnectWise, I'm in my project screen, and really what I wanted to show you is this top left project that was built out. And so with that, you'll see our budgeted hours, and then you'll also see our work plan, which has tasks and tickets aligned to the work breakdown that we had in ScopeStack. And again, so this solves a lot of pains for your project management team, that they don't have to come over here and now literally just recreate all the work that you've already done in one platform, right? And so if I click into this task, or in this ticket rather, I can see more details, whether it's language or potentially other tasks and things that we wanted to have in there. So really, at that point, right, this is where the top left team comes in and says, okay, well, how do we visualize this work in context for all the other things that we have going on? And so Matt, I'll pass it over to you to kind of take it from there.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks for showing that. That's I think that's really educational. I see a couple comments there about from people saying, "Hey, does this?" We're excited to see this, because I think this is maybe among our existing customers at TopLeft. Like, I don't know that many people actually knew that there was a solution for this. I think a lot of them felt that there was felt the pain there. Maybe they solved part of their problem already with TopLeft, but like, I didn't even know that someone was solving this problem.
Yeah, and really for us, quite honestly, when we started this on the pre-sales side, like we were building it for a pre-sales user persona. So someone that was scoping and pricing these projects, we didn't realize when we first started how painful it is for project manager to then take all that work and do what they do, right? Because we never had a whole lot of visibility into that until we started interacting with our ConnectWise customers and Autotask customers to say, hey, like, we need the part before the PSA, right? Not just the PSA. So appreciate that, Matt.
Yeah, okay. Well, now that we've seen that, and let me kind of explain for anybody who is new here, who has maybe come from Jon's mailing list and says, okay, I've solved the pre-sales, and sales sort of the problem there with ScopeStack, but as we actually run the problems, that's a big problem. I'm spending a lot of I'm spending a lot of time just with my project managers, or I am the project manager, and I still have to make my own Excel spreadsheets because what I get in ConnectWise or Autotask is not good enough, or whatever. I don't get the right visibility I need, or all sorts of things like that. Those are sorts of things that we hear. And Wim had already spoken briefly about some of the pain that his MSPs have had with that. TopLeft came out of trying to solve our own problem there at Wim's MSP. So let me just going to briefly show how it is that we go about giving you visibility into your projects as you run those projects. So we do it with something we call Kanban boards. I'll show you that just very briefly, but just as Jon had showed us ConnectWise, so that's how you'd seen in ConnectWise how ScopeStack is pushing in the projects and the tasks and so on. So you'd be left with a list like this. This is listing out all the top level projects. If you want to look into the details of a project, you got to click in there. You gotta click the work plan, and in here, it's really up to you as a project manager, or maybe as an engineer or whatever, to be in the mode of thinking, I am looking for a specific bit of information here, and I got to go and find it. I got to look down the column, or I got to look down for the right row. Basically, you got to know what it is that you're trying to look for, instead of like, if it was shown in a different way, you could have visibility into, hey, like, let the software find out if there's likely a problem with this and show it to you, so that you can manage by exception, rather than spending all your time figuring out, finding if there's a problem or not, when maybe most of the time things are okay. So this is what you get with ConnectWise. Autotask, we hear the exact same things from Autotask customers, that it's not good. The visibility is not sufficient in the project module here. So what do we do to solve that? Well, we use Kanban boards. So if you've ever used anything like Trello or Jira, Kanban boards, Microsoft Planner has things like this, then you'll recognize this. It's really quite simple. We have the columns here. Like, this is the same data. Like this data here is the exact same data that came out of the project board here. But it's just shown in a totally different way, making it way easier to understand. So the columns, those represent on this particular board, those are the project statuses. So we can have over here a column for like early parts of the project. Basically, typically done on a Kanban board is the work moves from the left to the right side of the board as it progresses through your workflows. And so this one is showing us our top level projects, and it's just way easier to understand. It is even highlighting certain problems with a project that's over budget here, showing in red. You really can't miss it. It's even warning us here about a ticket with a project with an upcoming start date. So it's showing it in orange, to say, hey, be aware, this project that you said you were going to start this in the next 2 days, but it's still still in the planning stage. So it brings your attention to those sorts of things, instead of you having to go and verify for yourself that everything's okay. And also in this sort of board, you can actually just drag and drop projects from one column to another, and that actually goes back to the PSA, and it changes the project status. Or if it's a board that's showing the tickets, it'll change the ticket status. So not only is it a great improvement to the visibility, it also just makes it faster to work, because you can just, hey, if you see a problem, or if you need to do some normal work, hey, I'm moving a project from one status to another, you just drag and drop it here, and you see the change reflected immediately in your PSA. So this is kind of an example of the top level project you can use to manage your whole portfolio. An example like this is showing us the same data that you would see over here in the work plan. So this sort of view here, looking at the different project tickets that we have, this is what you're getting in this sort of view. And again, the columns are associated with the statuses. Very, very flexible, and so you can see as your work moves from the left, meaning it's brand new work, that's where you'd Immediately after you get a project created from ScopeStack, you probably see all the tickets over in the new status, and then you'd work them by dragging them over into ready, and then engineers would come in here and see, okay, this is a ready ticket. They would pull it over to in progress, and eventually to completed. And this is a pretty typical example where we also have a column for showing the work that's scheduled out for the future, if it needs to be scheduled for some reason, and things that are waiting on the customer, waiting on some third party or whatever. So it gives you really clear visibility into where is all my work, and what's delayed, and how are things going. This board actually is a good example of this is what we call a Swimlane board. All it means is that it's grouping work here, and actually what we have are different groups here for each project. So in comparison to the ConnectWise or Autotask work plan here, where you can see exactly one project. If you want to go to another project, you either got to open another tab and do some more navigation, or you got to go back and navigate again. Instead of that, it's actually showing you all of the different projects all together here. So we've got a project here, our Azure migration project for one customer. We have a CRM upgrade project, email migration down here. So not only can you see all the details of in a much easier to understand way with the columns, but it's actually showing you more information for multiple projects, right? You're an MSP, you don't just run one project at once, you're always running multiple projects. So this is really much faster. You can just go way faster with a view like this than you can in ConnectWise or Autotask, and see much more information all at once. So another variation on that view is where instead of grouping the tickets by the project, instead we group them by the engineer who's assigned. So this is really, really important once you get to the stage where you're running your projects, because you need to know, in a certain project, I've got these certain tickets that need to be done, and but what really matters, okay, which of my engineers is going to be doing these work? I know, like in MSPs, is very typically a lot of work has to go to your senior engineers, right? So they end up being kind of a bottleneck sometimes. This would be a really common problem in a lot of MSPs. And so if, for example, here, if Adams or Terry is one of the senior engineers, then Terry's going to have way more work than everybody else, and that begins to really slow down your work, because maybe Terry has some key responsibilities, not just in one or two projects, but in almost all the projects that you're running. So actually, like, Terry becomes the bottleneck for your entire team, and that's something that is not. It's common, but it's not always obvious, right? Especially if you have the tools, the views that ConnectWise or Autotask give you. But in a view like this, you can compare really easily. You can say, okay, Terry has some number of tickets here in progress. A lot of them have red on them, whereas Joseph, maybe he's more of a junior engineer. He's only got 3 things here. And so you can see that really easily. You can say, okay, I can see now, why are we going slow? Well, part of it's because Terry has too many responsibilities. Like, we got to figure out how we can shift some of this work over to somebody else would be one way to solve that. It's really good visualization to see that. Just a couple more things here. If you're on a view like this, where you're seeing the projects that are part of your portfolio, you can click to drill into that project and say, I want to know what are the details of that particular project. So this, we're going back to another board, and now we are actually just seeing the tickets that are on that particular project, and no other projects, but we're seeing them organized by the phase here. So if you've set up your phases as you might, if the projects are coming through ScopeStack, then you can still see things organized by the phases. So that's useful as well. And by the way, this is not just great for project managers, it's also really useful for the engineers themselves. Okay, that's how the best MSPs use TopLeft, is by getting both their managers and their engineers into TopLeft. The engineers, they'll use them in their daily huddles, a 5 or 10 minute meeting in the morning, just to make sure that nothing's blocking anybody. This is a great tool to use for that. The engineers can enter time, so so they don't have an excuse for waiting to the end of the day or the end of the week to enter their time. And you can change various details about the projects, and assign and unassign work. So there's a lot of things that can it's not just visualization, it's actually being able to accelerate your work from day to day. Also, another thing that we've just added, this is within the last month or so, we've added what we call it the client portal. So you can now allow your customers actually to have direct access to these boards and to be able to just log in and answer their own questions about where their projects are at, so that you don't get as many emails saying, hey, what's up with my project? What's this ticket? Where's that at? Or whatever, because they can go in there and they can see it for themselves. They can even enter their own notes, which get emailed out to your engineers and the other people who expect to see that. So so that's something new that we've added in the last month or so as a paid add-on, and it could really streamline the project work as well. So we're excited about that, and that's how we've gone about helping MSPs with improving their project work.
Yeah, and Matt, just to reiterate too, I think the beauty about one, being able to visualize it, and two, being able to accelerate it is, potentially on the front end work, you're scoping this out, you have payment terms and billing milestones, right? And so the client knows, hey, I'm going to pay $10,000 this time, $20,000 this time. And like, you can actually see the work, and then you couple that with the client portal piece that you're talking about. They know what to expect. They know when that work is getting close to being done, and ideally, when they're going to be invoiced. And so I think just the alignment between, those initial client conversations, the sign off to the execution piece that y'all do so well is, I would imagine that's just a huge competitive advantage for most MSPs. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, good observation.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Jon. Thanks, Matt. I'm going to, a couple of things to share just around how to work with ScopeStack and TopLeft on these sorts of things, and then I'll go through the questions. I see that Jon has been answering some of those already, and I'll get the rest at the end. Feel free to add some more questions in the Q&A or in the chat. Let me share out my screen again here. So yeah, Jon, ScopeStack, they've got a lot of clients. Here's one testimonial from one of their clients.
Yeah, I think, just a little bit of context here, Wim. So we, I had always had this vision, right, of, I'm sitting there with a client and being able to fill out a questionnaire or fill out some inputs and like get them some sort of budgetary estimate even before I left. Right. And so I never thought I could get there, but, it's always good to have a vision, right? And so we started building out ScopeStack, and we were able to, just do the things that, as someone in that role, having been there, like, we know it's painful, because otherwise it's going to be a week before I get anything back to them, just because we have other meetings and all that stuff. And so the fact that one of our clients was able to kind of achieve that goal was just a huge aha moment for us, because like, hey, we finally helped someone achieve what we were wanting to achieve, so many years ago. So that was really exciting to see.
That's exciting. So whether it's across the table or on Zoom, you're having a discussion, you're kind of filling it out. I guess I wouldn't say on the fly, but using the templates and
the
formula.
And again, I think it's, an effort to be transparent with a client and instills confidence that, hey, we've done this before. We spent the time to build SOPs, and we've spent the time to define, successful implementation methodology, if you will, which I know is a mouthful, but like we've spent the time to do this. We've done this before, and it instills confidence with that client at the end of the day.
Yep. So you're not having to take it away and say, oh, I'll talk to my technicians and we'll come out with something. They give you an estimate and you got to double it and add your margin thing, and then hopefully you make money. But if you've got that corpus of information and you have the confidence to do that quickly. Okay, that makes a lot more sense to me. Good, thanks for providing that context. And then
sure.
If you want to get a conversation with Jon and his team, then you can scopestack.io/demo. There is a free version you can sign up for as well. But whichever one you'd like, explore the website or get a demo.
Yeah, and I think just when there too, you and I were talking about, what has changed lately. Back in April, I believe, is when we launched our free account. And so this is not a free trial. It's literally a free account that you'll have access to for a long time. And so we know, as having been engineers ourselves, right? Like, we don't really want to talk to salespeople. So we were like, maybe other engineers don't want to talk to salespeople. So we built that out there, and just we want people to be able to experience the value of it before they have to talk to anyone. And again, you can go through the entire process without talking to someone. I don't know why I'm hanging my hat on the fact that you don't have to talk to us, but it just keeps coming out of my mouth. So yeah, and then again, just, you know, we have a very wide array of clients, right? Billion-dollar organizations down to smaller organizations. And Wim, you were actually early in this conversation kind of helping us define, okay, what does pricing look like across that broad spectrum, right? Because you need to be able to have pricing that ebbs and grows with these organizations, as opposed to like preventing them from getting on. And so we've launched some new pricing that is very configurable. You can get into our paid account for $200 a month, and that leverages integrations and a lot of the stuff that I was just showing out there today. So 5 users, 10 projects a month. So there's a lot out there. Yeah.
No, I'm glad to see you've made those changes, because when I looked at it first, like 3 or 4 years ago, it was way above my budget at like $2,000 a month. So I think this will have a much broader appeal. So that's great. And obviously you've been working on the product all along as well. So
yeah.
Cool. Okay. And then ConnectWise, what one of our clients has said is just specifically about project meetings. They were taking longer and longer because of how the data was presented. And by using TopLeft, what we learned from the completed ticket challenge, we shortened our meetings by 50%. Now we can easily find the problem tickets and make sure the critical tickets are moving forward. And that's from Dale at VersaTrust. Yeah. So if you want to learn more about that, working with TopLeft, and whether you're an existing client or a new client looking at it, here's 2 ways we help our clients to get started. We have the concierge onboarding. So that's a 1-hour call with customer success here to set up your first Kanban board. So showing the right information, starting with best practices, dial it in so you can roll it out to your team quickly. So just getting those basics in there. You might be a project focus if that's what you want to do, or it could be a service board or something else, but get it in, set up the columns, the visualization, all those rules. And that's $299. The completed ticket challenge, getting lots of great feedback from clients on that as well. It's a 3-week boot camp, focusing on getting your finishing tickets rather than starting new work, new tickets. And so that's typically for managers. There's emails you get, there's videos, and then a weekly group call with other MSPs going through the same process. So great to share that way, work with other people from around the world, I believe, on that. So we have that. And then today, or until September 1st, we have this promotion. You get both for the price of the concierge. And so we have a code there for that. And I believe, Matt, this will work for both people going into the trial or a new subscription or existing clients, right?
Yeah, that's right. For new customers, they'd go to that website there and just click the right things, put in that code. Existing customers can get it too. They just do it within the right section in the application to sign up for that training, and then use the same code.
Yeah, and
I just want to do the completed ticket challenge because of the name of it. Just simply, it sounds like fun.
Yeah, and
you're welcome. Come on in.
Yeah, it's easy to get a lot of tickets started, and you got this work in progress, and that's the killer of productivity and flow. If you can get that work in progress done by completing stuff before you start new things, that's where you reduce overwhelm and better energy, and you just save time on your meetings. If you're only working on one thing at once, and not 20 or 50, your meetings are so much shorter, so much more effective.
Yeah.
Yeah, like honestly, that challenge, it's kind of like half and half. Like half is the software, but the other half, probably even more than half of it is actually just, hey, methods, and you can get benefit out of it even if you didn't use the software. Just different, change your mindset, and have a little daily meeting if you don't do that, things like that.
Yeah, getting your daily huddles going, good weekly meetings. Yeah, and some of our clients, if you've done this before on a service focus, you could do these things again with a project focus. Okay, that was it for the slides. Anything else to cover? All right, the Q&A. So I will stop to share there.
Yeah, I answered a couple of them while Matt was presenting a minute ago, but looks like there are a couple at the top of the list for you all, and then one for me and then one for one for us jointly, it looks like.
Yep. So yeah, you support Autotask and ConnectWise, create the tickets, and then all your regular workflow still applies in ConnectWise or your PSA. So you can apply templates that populate more things or set budgets or add tech tasks to it. You mentioned the workflow if you're working with something like Close a Cell or QuoteWorks, how that all goes with your opportunities. I like how that works. Yeah, that sounds great there. And then the open questions. Anonymous integration with CloudRadial. Yes, I've got an email dialogue started with I think it's Jeff at CloudRadial. So getting some dialogue going there. As well as some of the other portals, that's my vision, is to get embedded, like this client portal, the client facing part embedded into these other third-party portals. Because that's what seems to be missing, whether it's ConnectWise portal or Autotask or Desk Director we use as well. Is a great on the help desk side, but not so strong on projects. And clients can slow down your projects. So the more we can help our clients do their part of the projects, because sometimes they have to provide information or do technical tasks, or they're responsible for some things, and they need visibility on that. So that's, I've answered that one live. Project issue tickets. I guess, Matt, how did those show up on the project boards? Just the same way, right?
That's right. Project issue tickets are handled just in almost the exact same way as the project tickets themselves. Yeah, and you can even mix them together so you can see the project tickets and then the issues interspersed with them.
Yeah, very similar. So that's done. And then John, this question about are you working in an MSP now? I guess you have the question there.
Like, do I get a job offer? Yeah, so I think I'm assuming this anonymous question was, I'm assuming with the intent of, is there going to be an update, continuous update in service catalog and things like that? And so, yes, there will be. I will say that service catalog for us right now is definitely just a starting point for you to maintain and own how you define and build your services. I definitely see more of those coming later in the future. But right now, just to be very clear, this is not a, hey, we're going to keep this up to date with all the latest and greatest. Like, we're not going to keep your account up to date with all the latest and greatest in technology and recommend a level of effort. The way our service catalog function works today is you pull those starting points into your account, and then you can either use them how they are or modify them to make them your own, if that makes sense.
Yep. Okay, and then, oops, cancel. It's done, and then.
Hey, Forever, that question about the CloudRadial came through anonymously, but if whoever asked that wants to make yourself known, then we're happy to write that down and let you know if and when we can do the CloudRadial.
Yep.
But pop it in the chat there.
Yep. I want to just, maybe not everyone's noticed it, but we do TopLeft has a podcast. I think we've got 9 episodes recorded. 6 of those are actually conversation I had with James Davis from C-Level Operations in APAC, as now PAX8, and basically deep diving into just stories and best practices around project scoping and delivering, and when are you done, and how do you bill and dealing with out of scope stuff. So those are the video versions are on YouTube, and then they're also on Spotify, Google Podcasts, etc. So if you want to learn more on the project side, you can check that out. Joint promo for subscribing to both. That's something that we talked about in the kind of the green room before we started the webinar. We're going to have conversations about that. So we do not have a promo today, but
you never know.
Never know. We'll see the feedback we get on this. So pulling opportunities from PSAs. Right now we don't. Yes, on ConnectWise, we visualize the opportunities. So those are displayed there with there's activities we display. You can do a Kanban for that and the opportunities. But we don't, I think that's the one of the very few features we don't have parity on Autotask. Is that right, Matt?
That's correct. Yeah. It's definitely in the roadmap.
Yeah.
So,
But
so for
in
that,
ConnectWise, it already works. Yeah.
yeah, so for that, if you wanted to, so we're currently pulling opportunity information to ScopeStack at least. And so if you wanted to pull it, we're not doing the visualization piece, right, that TopLeft is doing. But if you're just trying to get that information from one side of the platform to the other, that is something that we also support.
Okay.
So I can take this next one about integrating with Zomentum, essentially. So right now we don't have an integration out of the box with Zomentum. However, I'd have to see if they have anything integration with Zapier and some of the other open API platforms that are out there. And so that's another piece. Our entire platform, we've spent the past couple of years converting it all to a React front end. And so with that, you can see our documentation on our API, so api.scopestack.io. And so we've leveraged that to build other integrations kind of outside of the box, if you will, and do some other kind of stuff there. So I'm all for integrating with Zomentum. We just don't have it currently available. So I think that'd be a good idea there.
Okay, then. Ooh, okay. Thanks to whoever shared that embed information for CloudRadial. That's great. We'll definitely review that.
Oh, and then Zomentum does have Zapier integration. So I'll send that to our team for sure to see if there's something we can do there. I'll copy that link.
Yep. So you've answered the Zomentum one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for that link, by the way, whoever, anonymous.
Oh yeah, just I guess this was more of a comment from Gloria about trying to build a huge project and it's taken more than a month to match everything up. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like the perfect use case, right? Of what you scoped and priced, building out your PSA, and then being able to visualize what's been done, what's been completed. So I think, Gloria, you're in the right place.
Yeah. Setting up those phases properly in the billing parameters so the invoices match back to it. Yeah.
Just trying to read this for ScopeStack. How do you have techs who spend scoping? Yeah, so very similar, Morgan, to how you're doing it. So if you remember in the project governance piece that we mentioned, there's documentation time, contingency. Well, you can have others, right? So we have clients that will configure pre-sales time in there. And so they'll use like a percentage of level of effort as like their starting point, and they can modify it if they want to, but they'll actually create that ticket in Autotask or ConnectWise, then go back and track your time against that number. So those kind of back office things that it doesn't necessarily have language associated to it in the statement of work, but it has, you need to account for some sort of level of effort. When we have some clients and partners that actually suggest, right, like that's how you're billing for that pre-sales time, which is a very valuable part of your business, as you know.
Yeah.
So a little tip, what we recommend people do for that kind of ticket, because everybody has that for their projects. What's kind of emerged as a good practice is you keep those tickets like that. You put them in. I'm talking about how you see that in TopLeft, because it's convenient to be able to see those. Maybe not like the initial design time, but everybody has one for kind of ongoing project management. And so we say, make a status in your PSA, call it ongoing, and a column on your TopLeft board, call it ongoing. Put the column over on the left side of the board, and so you can still see it there. You can really easily enter your time against it, but it's in its own column called ongoing, and so then you're not distracted seeing that in like in progress or waiting or whatever. Like it doesn't distract you about the rest of the real project work that always happens. So that's how we help solve that on the other side.
Yeah, great suggestion.
Okay. Any other questions or requests? We're ahead of schedule, so we got time to show anything specific if you want, demo anything you want. Happy coaching conversation or anything about the product. We had a lot of great questions there, 14 questions. That's great. There's nothing else coming in here. Then I will. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us today. Thanks, Jon and Matt, for presenting.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, Wim, I think we have one more. I'll just put in the chat the URL for the demo. And do that real quick.
Okay, good. And then podcast. Yeah.
Cool. Got it. Sorry.
No, all good. Put the YouTube channel link in there so you can find all the podcast stuff, all the James Davis sessions. Webinar, other webinar recordings are there as well, of course. Okay.
And a couple of you have asked now, when's the recording coming? And so we will email that out to you. And I would expect that probably tomorrow. And you can forward that on or watch again or forward it on to whoever you know might want to watch that. And that'll include the details on our promo as well.
Awesome. Thanks again, Wim and Matt, for having us on here. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. So with that, we'll wrap it up and enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
All right.
All right.
See you. Bye.
See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.